if the wilderness itself held a secret so terrifying. It drove 9 experienced hikers to tear their way out of their tent and into a freezing, certain death. In the desolate Ural Mountains, February 1959, an expedition vanished, leaving behind one of the most chilling, enduring mysteries of the 20th century, the Dyatlov Pass incident. Imagine, if you will, the biting winds whipping across the eastern slopes of Khalat-Syakhl, a name that chillingly translates to Dead Mountain in the local Mansi language. This wasn't just a misadventure. It was a scene of inexplicable terror. Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, led a group of 9 seasoned ski hikers. They were all highly experienced, eager to achieve grade III certification, the highest available in the Soviet Union, a testament to their exceptional skill and determination. Their ambitious route was a 300-kilometer trek through the rugged, unforgiving northern Urals, a journey designed to test the limits of human endurance. On February 1st, they set up their last camp on a snowy slope, high above the tree line, convinced they were prepared for anything nature could throw at them. But something truly unfathomable was about to unfold. Something far beyond blizzards, avalanches, or any conventional danger. Their final log entries spoke of good spirits. Then, chillingly, silence. When they failed to return by their scheduled date, a desperate search began. What rescuers eventually found, weeks later, was a scene of utter, perplexing horror. The tent, half buried under snow, had been cut open from asterisk inside asterisk, not torn by animals or the elements, but deliberately, frantically slashed with knives. All their personal belongings, their warm clothes, their food supplies, even their boots were left behind. It was as if they had fled in a sudden, overwhelming panic into the brutal, sub-zero night, utterly unprepared for the minus 25 degrees C temperatures and heavy snowfall. This initial discovery immediately pointed to an external, terrifying force that had driven them from their shelter. 2 bodies were found first, nearly a mile and a half away, near a lone cedar tree. They were Georgy Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko, barely clothed, with signs of hypothermia. Doroshenko, in particular, was stripped to his underwear, with charred hands, suggesting a desperate, futile attempt to build a fire from the cedar tree branches, even in their state of extreme distress. Not far from them, 3 more bodies lay, clearly trying to return to the tent. Igor Dyatlov himself, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin. Their faces, frozen in expressions of fear, cemented the initial thought of hypothermia. But the chaotic scene, the discarded clothing, and the inexplicable flight from the tent made a simple freezing-to-death scenario impossible to accept. The fear that drove them was palpable, even in death. Months later, as the deep mountain snow finally melted, the remaining 4 bodies were discovered in a ravine buried deeper still, protected from the elements. And these revealed the truly disturbing anomalies that fuel the mystery to this day, pushing the boundaries of any rational explanation. Lyudmila Dubinina was found with her eyes missing and her tongue surgically removed, an almost surgical precision to her mutilation. Semyon Zolotaryov had gaping eye sockets. Nikolai Thibox-Brignoles had suffered severe skull damage, a massive fracture. And two others, Alexander Kolvatov and Yuri Krivonishenko, the other Krivonishenko, though the initial one found was Georgy, suffered extensive internal damage, crushed chests, broken ribs, yet with no external wounds. It was as if an immense, invisible force had been applied from within, or by something incredibly powerful that left no outward mark of struggle. The level of force needed for these injuries was compared to a car crash, yet they were found far from any such impact. The Soviet investigation famously officially concluded that a compelling natural force had caused the deaths. A vague, utterly unsatisfying answer that only deepened the suspicion surrounding the incident. Why the secrecy? Why the bizarre, unexplained injuries that defied logical explanation? The case files were immediately classified, sealed for decades, fueling a firestorm of speculation and distrust among the public and the victims' families. For years, this official silence only amplified the whispered theories, painting a sinister picture of something the authorities didn't want the public to know. Something perhaps too horrifying or too embarrassing for the Soviet state to admit. In 2020, after a new, highly publicized investigation, Russian authorities announced their definitive conclusion: a rare slab avalanche. They argued the hikers, startled by the sound of snow cracking, cut their tent to escape the sudden collapse, then died of hypothermia trying to find shelter in the dark and blizzard conditions. Scientists from EPFL and ETH Zurich later supported this with sophisticated modeling, showing how such an avalanche could occur on a relatively gentle slope. But critics immediately pointed out the significant flaws. There was no typical avalanche debris or damage to the nearby tree line. The tent's location was not a typical avalanche starting zone. And most crucially, the bizarre, severe internal injuries seemed utterly inconsistent with snow impact alone. How, indeed, does an avalanche remove a tongue or cleanly crush a ribcage without external bruising? One of the most compelling and scientifically plausible alternative theories suggests infrasound. Imagine powerful katabatic winds accelerating down the unique, bowl-like topography of Khalat Syakhl, creating low-frequency sound waves. These waves are inaudible to the human ear, but can induce extreme physiological and psychological effects: intense panic, nausea, irrational fear, visual and auditory hallucinations, even a profound sense of dread that that some describe as being frozen with terror. Could the group, suddenly overwhelmed by this invisible terror, have fled their tent in a disoriented, hallucinatory state, driven to madness by the mountain itself? This theory neatly explains the sudden, inexplicable flight, the lack of any visible external threat, and the subsequent hypothermia as they stumbled blindly into the night. Another perennially popular theory points to secret Soviet military testing. There were credible reports from other local groups of strange, glowing orange orbs or fireballs in the sky around the time of the incident lights that maneuvered in ways no known aircraft could. Some initial forensic reports even found traces of radiation on the clothing of a few victims, although this was later disputed or downplayed. Could the hikers have stumbled upon a forbidden test site? Perhaps a pressure wave from an experimental weapon, a secret missile launch, or even a failed parachute deployment caused the severe internal injuries, and the military then orchestrated a swift, brutal cover-up, disposing of the bodies and fabricating evidence to conceal their activities. This explanation, while dark and conspiratorial, fits the era's Cold War paranoia and the Soviet government's initial, undeniable secrecy around the case. And then there's the more sensational, yet persistent, cryptid theory, the sheer, inexplicable force required for some of the injuries, like the crushed chests, without external marks of struggle, led some to whisper of a Yeti, a Russian equivalent of Bigfoot, or some other unknown, monstrous creature. The remote, desolate, and largely unexplored nature of the Ural Mountains certainly lends itself to such monstrous tales and legends among the local Mansi people. While seemingly far-fetched to many, it speaks to the ultimate horror of facing an unidentifiable, overwhelming force in the frozen wilderness. A primal fear of being hunted by something utterly beyond human comprehension. Over 6 decades later, the Dyatlov Pass incident continues to haunt us. A cold case that refuses to stay buried. The official explanations, while attempting to provide closure, often feel incomplete, failing to fully account for all the chilling details and inconsistencies. Why the missing eyes and tongue? Why the internal trauma without external signs of struggle? Injuries consistent with blunt force, but from an unknown source. Why the frantic, illogical escape into certain death? These unanswered questions ensure the incident remains a captivating, terrifying puzzle. It's a stark reminder of humanity's profound vulnerability when confronted by the unknown, especially in the vast, unforgiving expanses of nature's darkest corners. Was it a freak avalanche, a terrifying wave of infrasound, a top-secret military experiment gone horribly wrong, or something far more ancient and monstrous lurking in the depths of the Urals? The truth, perhaps, is still out there, buried beneath layers of snow, silence, and government secrecy. Dyatlov Pass incident serves as a chilling warning, a testament to the fact that some mysteries, no matter how intensely pursued, may simply refuse to be solved, forever shrouded in the desolate whisper of the wind on dead